PNG Happenings.
Breaking in Parliament. Governor Allan Bird just put the Prime Minister on the spot. Is Bougainville's autonomy a success or a failure? During a tense parliamentary session, Allan Bird questioned Prime Minister James Marape about the key differences between Bougainville's autonomy and other provinces in Papua New Guinea.
The question is in relation to the autonomy arrangements for Bougainville. I didn't want to ask the Minister because I felt that the PM is probably one of the longest serving members in the House, and he would be well versed with this response. First of all, my first question, and again it comes back to the briefing that we had yesterday from the bipartisan committee on Bougainville in relation to the ratification process that would be on foot towards the end of this year, I understand. And so my series of questions is in relation to that, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Assistant Speaker. First of all, and again, I think I speak for many provinces who are interested in the autonomy arrangements that have been trialed, experimented on in Bougainville. So my first question is, what are the key differences between the autonomy arrangements on Bougainville and the rest of the provinces? This question is framed because I noticed that the members of parliament from Bougainville...
He asked the big question many Papua New Guineans are thinking. Did autonomy actually work for Bougainville, or did it fail? And most importantly, why hasn't the government tabled full reports for transparency?
Other parts of the country are asking. And this gets me to wonder, if they have autonomy arrangements on Bougainville, why are they still dealing with the same issues that we are dealing with? So what are the differences? What are the key differences which would make the autonomy arrangements on Bougainville different to what the rest of us have in PNG? My next question is, did the autonomy arrangements on Bougainville, did they work or did they fail? If they worked or failed, had there been any audits of the autonomy arrangements on Bougainville? Has there been any reviews of the autonomy arrangements on Bougainville? Or have any studies been done by any of our research institutions to understand what happened on Bougainville and whether the learnings, positive or negative, can be applied or rejected across the rest of Papua New Guinea? In relation to that, if there are any such reports available to the Prime Minister or to the Office of Bougainville Affairs, can the government table those reports so that the members of this House and the people of Papua New Guinea can be informed as to the results of the autonomy experiment on Bougainville? And finally, in relation to the ratification issues that are going to be imminent upon us this year, can the government inform the House if they have a schedule of activities? Because I noticed that most of the members of this parliament are new, perhaps 90% are new. And like the rest of the country, they may not be fully versed on the issues around Bougainville and the work that has been undertaken between the autonomous Bougainville government and the Papua New Guinea government over the past 20 years. If there is such a schedule of events, can either the Minister or the Prime Minister, on behalf of the government, table it for the benefit of the members and the people of Papua New Guinea? Thank you, Mr. Assistant Speaker.
Mr. Prime Minister.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Assistant Speaker. Me like talk, thank you, Lord. Governor Sepik, Lord. Good series of questions, and me ask him. That is very important for the fullest understanding of this Parliament and people of our country. I want to firstly say the difference, the first question, what is the difference between the autonomous arrangements we have in Bougainville and the other provinces who are now aspiring for autonomy. Firstly, the other provinces operate under the Organic Law on Provincial and Local Level Government, 1995 Organic Law on Provinces and Local Level Government. Bougainville operates under Part 14 of our Constitution. And so Bougainville is a direct creation of our Constitution through the amendment that took place in 2001, and their autonomy is clearly defined. The other provincial governments, we're working towards an autonomous arrangements, but it is not yet defined in law. Right now, the decentralized powers, especially the Organic Law on Provincial and Local Level Government 1995, you are operating under that ambit of that law and the powers that is prescribed under this law. And for the reference of most of you governors, if not all of you, Section 42 of that law gives you the fullest scope of powers that you have right now in your provinces. Bougainville, to come to the third question on have we studied or are certain as to what has happened in Bougainville, I want to give a straight up answer. Right now as I speak, I have no clearest study on what has fully transpired in Bougainville this day. The state of autonomy and the respect because of the crisis that has happened in Bougainville, this government, as I would be, if I'm not wrong, I was part of last government, and I was also part of the Somali government, that we, in every dialogue with leaders of Bougainville, the conversation on transparency, good governance, reporting has always been blurred simply at the backdrop knowing fully that they are a special case, they come from the crisis, so some element of sympathy from Waigani to them has not compelled much of accountability and reporting back to Waigani. And I would certainly, in the next meeting we have with the Bougainville leaders, ask for a study on what has happened so we could help them in the course of what is coming ahead of them and us as we relate going forward into the future. But no full audit or no full review or study has taken place in respect to shared power sharing arrangements. However, the fullest, the autonomous function is already clearly defined in Part 14 of our Constitution. And I recollect in 2010 JSB, I was then Education Minister. And the first function that national government transferred was the education function under my watch. Almost all functions would have been transferred to Bougainville. Today, some functions are still here. This government still try, and on both sides, Waigani and Buka, the headquarters of the autonomous region of Bougainville, somewhat slow. Buka is not anxious to ask for drawdown of powers, and Waigani sometimes is also slow to transfer powers. But JSB under my watch have given full instruction that all powers as described must be held by Bougainville, must go to Bougainville. And so we have worked within this prescription, and most powers have been transferred. You would have looked at some economic powers, for instance, the national fisheries, work with the fisheries on Bougainville. Forestry has been transferred. Full land that we have in state land as prescribed is now transferred to the Bougainville government. So all state land in Bougainville remains part of Bougainville government land. The only thing we retain are sovereign-related issues, defense, currency, foreign affairs, those matters retained. Almost all functions are now being transferred to Bougainville, and as part of the process of ushering in the referendum results into the floor of Parliament, this Parliament will be informed on the full status of PNG Bougainville relationship in as far as power transfer and operation of the powers concerned. But as I said earlier, Part 14 of our Constitution clearly is a difference between the autonomous Bougainville government and the rest of the provincial governments we have in our country. I want to also say that for the education of present generation of Papua New Guineans, this is not this Parliament's doing. A process has been set since 2001, Bougainville Peace Agreement. The gist of the peace agreement was transplanted into Part 14 of the Constitution. That's why in 2019 there was a sunset clause to a date in which referendum must be held. Section 338 of that part of our Constitution compels that on the 10th anniversary, in between the 10th anniversary and the 15th anniversary of the first autonomous government, there must be a referendum held. And the referendum was, the questions on referendum was also explicit as given in the Constitution. So the then O'Neill government proposed and accepted the two questions. A question on what, if you want, you vote on two issues. You vote for autonomy or you vote for full political independence. And so those questions were accepted, and those questions were put to the ballot. And under the prescribed of Section 338, referendum was 338 of the Constitution, referendum was held. And the result, as all of us know, will be forever and timeless.
What do you think? Should Manus be split into two electorates?
97.7% of the people who voted for independence. We are time-bound. I think the governor did inform or ask on what has happened since. Well, after the referendum in 2019, whilst COVID-19 delayed a little bit, we had 5 rounds of post-referendum consultation. First, and that's sanctioned under 341 subsection 1 of the Constitution. At a meeting in Kokopo, we had post-referendum consultation. Our national government, on behalf of the country, we put to them that yes, you voted, but there's a set process in place. Just because you voted doesn't mean you have automatic independence. Section 342, subsection 2 says the process must be ratified or Parliament must make decision. It must come to Parliament. But it also, there's a room for leaders' dialogue. There's a room, in fact, a wisdom of the 2001 peace agreement, lest we forget. The Part 14 was brought in as a result of a peace agreement. And so the first purpose of that meeting in 2001 or thereabouts was to find peace. And in the effort to find peace, the push to get a referendum, the push to get a referendum on independence, the push for Part 14 to be part of the Constitution came in 2001. So that process is running. It is live as we speak. And the process in the wisdom of 2001, Section 338 also says, I think there's subsection 7 that says that the leaders must also consult, and Bougainville Autonomous Government will decide whether referendum is held or not held. But they voted for referendum to be held. We complied it must take place within the 10 to 15-year anniversary of the first government. Sunset was in 2019. A referendum was held at the advice of United Nations. I repeat, at the advice of United Nations. United Nations said key prerequisites were complied. One of them was all guns were returned. Second was good governance was exercised. That's subject to anyone's guess. But at this stage, 338 is retired. We now are waiting 342 subsection 2 to be retired. But I did put to the Parliamentary Committee on Bougainville that there was wisdom in 2001 peace agreement. And I want to give greatest commendation to Bougainville leaders. They came at the backdrop of pain, loss, stress, crisis, more lives lost. It is estimated that over 20,000 lives lost on both sides. PNG side lesser, Bougainville more. But at the backdrop of pain, tears, and crisis, they agreed that this process must run its course. And I give credit to the leaders of Bougainville, including President Toroma, who was then a key signatory to the peace agreement. That he never stopped in the way of saying the peace agreement must not be brought into Parliament, allow national Parliament to have its course. And credit is given to that generation of leaders also. they said the Parliament will make decision. I want to place on this Parliament's record my appreciation to President Toroma, the Honourable President Toroma and his leadership. At first they said no, Parliament is just a rubber stamp to the decision made by the people. But this side defended, Parliament is not a rubber stamp, Parliament is the supreme lawmaking authority of the land. 342 subsection 2 that says Parliament will make decision, means members of Parliament will then take a vote on what was the outcome, what is the outcome. So we've agreed in the Kokopo meeting to push to a WABEC meeting. In the WABEC meeting, key milestone dates were set out. So we had a meeting in WABEC, all in the interest to take Bougainville leaders outside of Port Moresby and Bougainville to see the rest of the country. They went into, the Enga provincial government was hospitable. We were in Enga province. Discussions on key milestones were then reached. And then we had the Era Kone Covenant that established that this must take place as we prepare to usher in the results to the Parliament. But key amongst some technical issues came into play. How do you usher in? There is no constitutional provision, there is no standing, or actually constitutional provision to usher in the result of the Parliament. This is unprecedented. So both sides agreed that a sessional order will be used. And the sessional order will then suspend standing orders, usher in the results, and we will go through the results will table, and this Parliament will take a vote on this one. And so we have a meeting or two outstanding before the results are brought into Parliament. It is almost fait accompli. The leaders on the ground, fait accompli, meaning the process has started. The journey of the results coming to Parliament is on foot. There will be a date this year, preferably before September 16 this year, that the results come in and each member of Parliament will go through this. I think two Parliament sessions earlier, I did ask, if my memory is not wrong, I did ask our government caucus that all provincial governors take resolution in your own respective assemblies as to what you view should be the way your province look at the referendum results. So I hope all provincial governments have taken this as a point of decision making, or you discuss in your own assemblies. But when it comes to the National Assembly or National Parliament, we will discuss the results of this vote, and Parliament will then take a decision. This is a constitutional vote. On this side, we believe this is not ordinary vote. This is a constitutional vote. Constitutional numbers, 3/3 majority takes precedent in the affirmative or in the negative of the results. But I want to say to us here in this Parliament, and say to the Bougainville House of Representatives, the Bougainville Parliament, the Bougainville people, there is no fear in the process. The 2001 agreement is full of wisdom also. It says, and I think 342 subsection 1 has a leeway out of this. And that's why we term this the Melanesian consensus, Melanesian wisdom, Melanesian agreement must take precedence. We will not rise up one morning and Bougainville is no more, PNG is no more. We perpetually stuck here forever until Jesus comes. And we will have to deal with this issue one way or another. So the serious most issue facing us. While Section 2 of our Constitution defines the sovereignty we have today, whilst we can't ignore that lives have been lost on both sides, and more so on Bougainville, this Parliament is faced with this task to deal with this issue. All of you, when the moment arrives, you will decide to vote in the affirmative or vote in the negative. But whatever the result of the vote is, I will be soon announcing from government and from Pangu Party policy perspective the way we would propose this one. And it is found in the spirit of Section 342, subsection 1. There's a provision for post-referendum consultation. That provision has no sunset clause. We could find a next phase. If this Parliament votes and we grant them full independence, there will still be a next phase. If this Parliament votes and says no to independence, there will still be a next phase. We just can't ignore the fact that 97.7% of Bougainvilleans have voted for nothing less than self-determination labeled political independence. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
This raises serious concerns about governance, accountability, and the future of provincial autonomy across PNG. So what do you think? Papua New Guinea? Should all provinces have more autonomy like Bougainville? Or is it time for the government to reveal the truth? Drop your thoughts below. Don't forget to follow for more real PNG updates.
PNG Happenings.